Well, hello everyone. It is Will. I am the bow tie sober guy coming at you live Sunday night. I'm excited to be here, and I'm still trying this camera thing out and trying to figure out, make sure that it works right. So hopefully you guys are seeing this in landscape mode and not the tall portrait mode. So glad you guys could join me. I am super excited to be here. As I had posted earlier today, I was going to talk about the power of persistence, and I'm excited to share some of that. Some interesting things happened today around that, and some before I had the thought about talking about this, and then some actually after that as well. So it was kind of interesting. I'm still trying to work on this whole vision and how far away and everything. So hopefully you guys can see me. Okay, sorry, I got distracted there. Paula came in. We're still working on these things, so bear with me, and please be patient as I continue to try to evolve all of this. So, but back to persistence. Excited you guys are here and to share a little bit about persistence and what that means and what the power of persistence is all about. And I am reminded. Really one of the biggest things that I am reminded about as far as persistence was my journey in recovery. Mostly, really where it started was my journey over alcohol, almost 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And, I tried before that, but persistence is actually what got me here, which is actually a great story too. And the fact that, I had tried for a long time, a number of years, to get sober before this last round of sobriety and the last almost 2.5 years. But and really that's what persistence is all about, is not giving up. And the challenge with not giving up is it's hard. Quite honestly, there are going to be challenges and life gets in the way, and we get tired and we get beat up and we get really frustrated and disappointed and not really feeling like we're moving forward. And I think that's one of the things that I want to encourage everyone with when it comes to persistence, is we all think that things have to move in this, I was going to say forward progression, but really when I think about that, I think a lot of us look at achievement and going and persisting in things that we're trying to get or we're trying to achieve or we're trying to get to is more of an upward trajectory, not necessarily a horizontal along a path, but really an upward. And what's interesting about that is if we think about that from the perspective of growth, I think it's great. Just like when you plant a seed and you don't see much growth at first, and then it sprouts from the earth, right? It sprouts from the ground and you start to see, and then you can really see it. And I think that the growth that we experience in persistence is the same kind of a thing. But one of the things about that, and I'm going to get back to that analogy here in a second, but one of the things that, getting back to the horizontal growth and the horizontal persistence rather than the vertical persistence, is I think a lot of us get stuck in this thinking of vertical persistence, that I always have to be moving up, and even along a horizontal path, that we have to keep moving forward. But that's not always the case. There are times when we're persisting, when we're moving towards something that we may not actually go up, or we may not get further along in that path. There might be times that we fall back a little bit. There might be times that we have to take a step or two back along that journey forward. And I think that it's important, extremely important for us to remember that just because we get knocked back on that path, whether it's up or whether it's down or back, that doesn't mean that we give up. And I know that I'm challenged with a lot of times with that, and the fact that I don't see the forward movement, so I want to give up. And really persistence to me is finding the courage, finding the strength to continue to move on, whether that's up or forward, to continue to move on regardless of that. Because, life is not a straight line, whether it's straight out in front of you or straight up. It's not. There's lots of things that come in and move us along this path that we're on in this journey. And I wish I brought in, I made this cup actually that would be a great metaphor to really think about this. But I was drawing it when I was getting sober early on the path that I was going to take, and I knew that it wasn't going to be a straight path. I knew that it wasn't going to be a flat path. I knew that it was going to have ups and downs, and it was going to have all kinds of turns. But the other thing that we can run across is we can get knocked off that path sometimes. And how do we persist through that? You know, one of the things, some of you know that my career has really focused around, I think this is a great analogy too, really focused around sales. And I've been in sales for a long time in my career, most of my career for that matter. And one of the things that I used to talk a lot about, and still do, that we talk about in sales is persisting when we're trying to get someone to purchase our product or our service, whatever it might be. And it's really interesting. They've done all kinds of studies around that and what persistence means in the world of sales. And what's really interesting is that, and you see it in marketing as well, but we actually, in sales and in marketing and advertising, and it's not usually that first contact, that first touch point that gets us to that goal, that sale. Someone to purchase our product or our service that we're actually selling, regardless of the value of that. Typically, it's being persistent in that process. And they have shown in sales that it's anywhere from you have to touch someone 7 to 12 times before you have that opportunity to actually even be in front of them to offer your product or service. So if we can look at, if that takes that in sales, what about in our lives? What does it take? We're going to have all kinds of things that step in front of us that are going to try to derail us, take us off task, and knock us off our path and our journey. Whether, again, that's a forward-moving journey horizontal or you're trying to grow vertical. It doesn't matter. I just want you to choose whatever metaphor works for you. But there's going to be all kinds of things that pop into that. It's going to be situations. It's going to be people. There are going to be circumstances. There's going to be a ton of things, most of which aren't even in our control. And a couple Facebook Lives ago, I talked about that circles and control and what do we control and where do we try to control when we really don't have any control. And I was talking about the weather that night and it was snowing and I don't have any control over that. But it can have an impact on me. It can have an impact on my day and what I'm trying to accomplish. So when it comes to persistence, what do you use? What do you use to help keep you persisting towards whatever that is? And, for a long time, I would get so discouraged and really distraught because I really felt like, you know what? It doesn't matter what I do. It's never enough. I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to get there. And what I would challenge you with on that is, first of all, is the there that you're trying to get to the right thing? Is what you're trying to achieve, the goal that you're trying to get to, the position, whatever it is that you want to persist towards, is it the right thing? And think about that first. If you're not even going the right direction, does it even matter if you get derailed? And I know for me, I used to chase things that really had no meaning. I had no desire to have that, but for whatever reason, I felt like I wanted to. But when I really looked deep down inside, that wasn't congruent with who I was, what I wanted. It was just something that, and a lot of times it was something that I saw the world thought it was a good thing to have, so then I thought I had to have it. And that's not true. That's not true at all. And I had to look back and really readjust. Am I persisting after the right things, or am I persisting after the wrong things? You hear the old saying, right? Barking up the wrong tree. I caught myself. I used to do that all the time. And I would completely be barking up the wrong tree. Well, if I'm barking up the wrong tree, what good is it? It doesn't matter. But yet I would use those circumstances and that situation that I was in, and I would get so discouraged, but yet it wasn't even the right tree. So I would encourage you to find the right trees. Let's first find the right trees that we want to bark at, right? And now that's a horrible example, but think about that. Are we looking at the right things to persist about? So that's really the first part in this, is figure out, okay, I am going to be persistent in achieving this or going after this or doing this, whatever it might be. But really make sure that that's the right thing first. And so then now that you've determined that, you have to find out what is it inside? What are the things that I can use to help me persist in achieving this? And, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of ways that you can do it. There's a lot of ways, and it depends on really what it is that you're trying to accomplish. As I mentioned a lot of times here recently, I've launched Bowtie Living, right? So I've launched this new company, this coaching company, and looking for clients and coaching people on really achieving these newfound and new exciting paths for them. And I'm way, way excited about that. But it's new. And am I going to get discouraged, or I'm going to be persistent with that? I have my event coming up next Sunday, a week from today. Oh, that is, it's a week from today. And persisting with that and not getting discouraged. Whether I have, like I had mentioned earlier, I think it was on Thursday or Wednesday, whether I have 5 or 500 people, not to get discouraged if I only have 5. Because it's okay. But I could use that as something to discourage me. Because I've already determined that, yes, that is the direction that I want to go. And I'm excited about it. I'm moving forward in that kind of a thing. But what are the things that we can use? And for me, there's a lot of different things that I can use to help me persist. And one of the critical pieces to that is how I talk to myself about it. What are the things that I say about what's going on? Do I look for the things that maybe aren't going right? Or what I've chosen to do instead, because my default is to find the things that aren't going right. It's completely, in all honesty, that's my default. I would have been a great attorney because I love to find ways to get around things or to see the opposite of really the truth. And I'm glad I didn't become an attorney. But regardless of that, really looking at that and saying, what is it that I'm going to go for? And I kind of lost my train of thought there. I apologize for that. So, but moving forward and persisting in what are the things that I can do? And for me, it's looking at things through a different lens. And instead of looking at the negative, I try to find the encouraging things that happen. And today's a perfect example. I'm not going to go into the details, but there were 2 things that happened today that gave me the affirmation that I needed to know that I was doing the right thing, that I'm going in the right direction, that persisting for me in this goal and this new vision that I have of the things that I want to do is the right thing. And that's really exciting. But in the past, I would have focused on the things that were derailing me, the things that were trying to keep me from going along that path. So what can you do? What are some of the other things that you can do? Because I think it has to come inside of us. We have to find out what is it about going after whatever that is that's going to help us persist. For some people, one of the biggest things is there's a lot of people that winning is the biggest thing. Like, I am competitive, right? So I want to win. And I am fairly competitive. Now, I used to use that in a very negative way, and now I try to use it as a very positive manner to help me to move forward and persist, and but not at the expense of others. And I used to think about winning, and I would do it at all costs, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter who I hurt, who I stepped on, who I stepped over, who I went around. It didn't matter. But that's not how I live today. And so what are those things that you can, is that one of the ways? Do you prefer to win? And is that something that really motivates you? Another very common one is just achievement of a goal. And I'm not saying like this big, huge, lofty achievement goal. I'm saying just achieving something that you set your mind to. And knowing, and I think this is important too, knowing up front you're going to be challenged. You're going to have obstacles. You're going to have people, you're going to have things, you're going to have circumstances that actually step in front of you, that come in front of you, and will try to put something in the way of that. And so for me, I want to look at, I know that going into it. I know that ahead of time So I'm prepared for that, and I'm ready for that. And some things are easier than others to get around and to go over and to deal with. And some take a lot more work, a lot more time, and really sometimes they take a lot more just grit and determination to really be able to get through that one blockage on your way. Because persistence is one of those things that you have to find that internal fortitude and those things that are going to help you persist. Sometimes we do it, we get kind of to the end of our rope and we have to. You know, I was kind of at that way, a number of years ago before I got sober. I was truly at the end of my rope and I didn't know what to do anymore. I could not go on like I was living. I could not, and I had to find a new way to live, and I had to find a new way to think about things. And that's really what I love about this whole journey that I've been on, is I've been able to take all that information and really turn it into Bowtie Living. And be able to share that with others and be able to help other people go through those same kinds of things. And whether it's addiction to alcohol or drugs, or whether it's just addiction to being sad or not happy with what you have, or just wanting something more. That's really what I've been able to do with this. And it's exciting. And again, don't get me wrong, there are, it's not perfect. I have challenges all the time that pop up. And some of them are self-imposed, things that I think about. But I've been able to learn how to deal with those, and that's what I do with Bowtie Living. And so persistence is really finding that strength and finding that courage. And I love, and I shared this on one of my other Facebook Lives, I love my definition, it's not my definition, but the definition of courage that I keep very, very close to my heart and very top of mind. And courage isn't not being fearful, okay? Courage is being fearful, but having the strength to go through it and face it anyways. And that, to me, is really the most important thing when it comes to persistence. And it's okay to struggle through that. It's absolutely okay. But that's where the internal strength and that courage can come from. And knowing why it is. I talked about this when I did my session on goals and resolutions, about understanding what your why is and having a why. And when we know our why, so when we start with, okay, I want to do this, whatever this is, it doesn't matter. But I want to do this, and I know that it's the right thing and it's the way I'm supposed to go. But really knowing deep down the why. Why is it important to me? Because when the why is big enough, it doesn't matter what comes in front of us. That will give us the strength and the courage to persist through the bumps, through the mountains, because there are going to be things that are just little bumps, some that are hills, and some that are big mountains that we have to summit and we have to get over. Because the coolest part about that is that when we get up there, the view is very different, right? And we can see things differently. And that's what it's exciting about persisting. Because in the act of persisting, what we find is we find this strength, we find this courage, and then when we get through all of it, no matter what it is, and no matter how big or how small, no matter what it is, when we get through that and look back, it's an amazing, amazing feeling. Because now you can look at that, and then we get to use that experience and use it going forward. And a lot of you know that my whole Bowtie Living is based on transforming life's knots. And these knots are all of those things that keep us from achieving the life that I believe God has intended us to live. And so those knots are the things that we need to figure out a way to persist through and work through and find the courage and the strength to get through and really transform those knots into something like a beautiful bowtie life. And as I've shared, a bowtie has a knot, right? This bowtie has a knot right in the middle of it. But the knot is actually what makes it this beautiful tie. And if we think about that with the things that we have to persist through, these challenges, these obstacles, these fears, these things that we come across, how do we persist through those and turn those into something more beautiful? And that's really what Bowtie Living is all about, is being able to take those things and learning how to persist through that. And there's lots of different tools and resources and a lot of that, but a lot of that all has to come from inside as well. And that's what I teach at Bowtie Living. And my clients, that's what we work through. We work through how to take and really turn our mess into our message. And that is all through persistence. You know, and I look at things that I've had to persist through, and you know what? To some people, they might be grand and huge, but you know what? To other people, they're small, and there was nothing to them. Not a lot of hurt, not a lot of pain, and it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. What matters is for me is I persisted through those and have been able to get to where I am now. And again, not rainbows and unicorns, but it's better, and every day gets better. And I'm really excited. I'm going to give you a little segue. I'm going to do a Facebook Live on this here probably pretty soon about creating. I'm going to try to say this how I envision it happening, because it's one of my favorite things to talk about when we talk about our future and our tomorrows, is that my today becomes my yesterday's, or my tomorrow's yesterday. So let me say that again. I know I've said this before, but my today is my tomorrow's yesterday. So if I want to make my tomorrow's yesterday be better, that means I have to be better today. And that's what persisting is all about. What can I do today? What do I have the ability to do today to make my tomorrow have a better yesterday? And that's what really persistence is all about. It's finding the strength, finding the courage to get through. And you know what? I will be honest and say, you know what? I never do it alone. I tried. I didn't do it. I tried for a long time to do it on my own because I thought I had to. I thought I had to do it all on my own. But what I've found is, you know what? Community is there. And I have friends like I've never had before. I have people that I could pick up the phone right now if I was struggling with something that was going on in my life, and I could pick up the phone and they would answer and they would listen to me and they would help me through this, whatever it is, doesn't matter. And that is so encouraging and such a cool part of this whole process of Bowtie Living, that it's not just about me, but that I have the resources now, and I have the people, and I have the community, and I have the relationships to be able to do that, and be able to share that, and not share it with any guilt or shame or fear or anything like that. And that's really, really exciting. And so it's really about persisting, because one of the things, there's a great quote in the recovery world. It's a saying that is said in all the different recovery circles out there. But it talks about, don't quit before the miracle happens. And what's really cool about that is I have a different way of saying that, because one of the things that I've learned in my own journey of recovery, and I call it recovery because it started with recovery over alcoholism, but now it's recovery over all of life and all the life's knots that happen, and continuing to grow in this new way of living. But I have a new way of looking at don't quit before the miracle happens. And my thing is I say don't quit before the next miracle happens. Because for me, this isn't a one-time, I'm one and done kind of a journey. This is a journey that I'm going to be on the rest of my life. And that's really exciting. And the reason that it's exciting is because I've seen the miracles. And they continue to happen day after day after day. It's not every day, but there are little miracles. Well, there are little miracles that I could see in every single day, if and when I look for them. But if I'm not looking for them, I will not see them a lot of the times. And it's absolutely amazing. So don't quit before the next miracle happens, because that's what's so fun and that's what's so exciting. And that's what Bowtie Living is all about. Bowtie Living is I have this program that I've decided that I want to help people walk through the same thing to get to the same place, that no matter what happens in our lives, that we have a new way to look at. We have a new outlook. We have a new way to see things. And regardless of those knots that are put in front of us, those obstacles, those challenges, all these things that are going to pop up, they're going to happen. Absolutely, they're going to happen. And I've not seen the worst of them yet. But you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm at peace with that, because I know that I have God, first of all. I have my family, and I have other relationships in this community of people around me that I know I can reach out to at any time. No matter how hard that road is, no matter how hard that journey is, that I have the ability to persist. And that's what's really, really exciting. And you can too. And that's what's really cool about persistence is think about that. Am I on the right path? That's the first thing you want to do. Am I on the right path? Okay? Do I have a why that's big enough to keep me on that path regardless of what steps in front of me? Regardless of the obstacles and the challenges and the mountains and the hills and the ruts and all the other things that are going to pop up. Do I have a big enough why? Doesn't matter what the why is, just make sure it's big enough. And then when you start that journey, be just very aware before you even start that you're going to have them. You're going to have these challenges. You're going to have them. But because you're barking up the right tree, because you have the big enough why, because you know you're going to have obstacles. None of that matters. That you are going to see your way through because, as I just said, we don't want to quit before the next miracle happens. So I ask you, what's the next miracle in store for you? There's something. I guarantee you there's one coming up. Are your eyes open to see it? And I think they can be, and I think they will be. As long as you're open and you desire to see those things, you will experience those. So that's the persistence, the power of persistence. Keep what is that saying? Keep on keeping on, right? And sometimes it seems so hard, so difficult to do. But those are the times that you find the courage, you find the strength, you find the people in your lives that are going to help you through those times. You find that community, and you keep persevering, you keep persisting. So, thank you all for joining me. Again, I wanted to remind everybody, next Sunday is my event here for those that are local. If you'd like to join me, I'm having it at one of the churches here in Parker from 2 to 5 next Sunday. If you can believe it, it's already March, which means that next Sunday is the 3rd month, and so we've already finished 2 months of this year. It's crazy. But please join me. If you want more information, go to bowtieliving.com/event. That will actually direct you to a page on Eventbrite with more information. Would love to see you guys if you're local. For those of you that aren't, I'm sorry. I will do some stuff online here in the future that you can join us as well. So thank you all for joining me tonight. I wish you all a blessed week as we go into the start of a work week tomorrow. If you need anything, want to talk to anybody, or looking for some coaching, or going through some events in your life that you're kind of struggling with, and you're looking for somebody to talk to, please reach out. I'm happy to talk to you and see what we can do and get you to persist through and over and around all those challenges. Until we talk again, I want to thank you all. I love you all. It's Will, the Bowtie Sober Guy. Peace out.